giving thanks for his hard work, for his dedication, his time for the SSP during this time as well. May your guidance, protection, and permission be with us during this moment and for the rest of our lives. And so be it. So welcome, dear friend, to this beautiful first Saturday of the 9th of November, first Saturday of our works here of November 2024. And today we have our dear friend Luiz Lima speaking about living in society. Our dear friend Luiz Lima began his journey in Spiritism in 1990 as a serious researcher on this scientific aspect of Spiritism. Luiz has been facilitating the studies on how to bridge science and Spiritism in both languages, Portuguese and English. Mr. Lima is a renowned lecturer in the Spiritist movement and participates in local and national seminars and events all year round. Luiz Lima holds a degree in electronic engineering, and he works in the computer network industry. With no further ado, to speak about this amazing topic, which is living in society, right? Living with one another. We'll pass the word to you, Luiz, to guide us in this amazing moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. Yes, it is difficult. At times we tell ourselves, I'd rather just be alone. So it's one of the challenges in life, and Spiritism explains it in several different ways. We have information starting right off the Spirit's book. That's mostly what we are going to be using today. So let's bring some images on the screen so we can get started. Everybody can follow along. In the Spirit's book, there's a set of questions about life in society. We're not going to go exactly question and answer, but I'm going to bring fragments of the 3 answers that matter to us today. So in question 766, in answering the question, the Spirit tells us, God has made humans for living in society. So we can't complain. It comes from God. Otherwise, God would not have needlessly given them us, right? Speech and all the other faculties necessary for a life of relationships. So not only we are supposed to live in society, but we are given abilities and faculties to make use of. So we should make use of those, and the right use of those. That's what we are going to discuss here throughout the lecture. On the next question, the spirits add to the answer that people instinctively, that's interesting, instinctively seek societal living, instinctively. And since all of them must cooperate in humankind's progress by mutually helping one another. So they added another layer here. Is something that happens by instinct. We seek other people, we seek relationships with other human beings. And we are supposed to, not that we do, but we are supposed to mutually help ourselves, help one another. And in question 768, they add another layer of information, which is humankind must progress, but they meaning us, they cannot do so alone, since they do not all possess every faculty. They need contact with others. Being perfect or reaching perfection means that we have experienced everything possible, all the possibilities that you can ever think about, everything. We are not there yet. So that's what they say. We do not possess every faculty. And one of the ways to develop these faculties and abilities is by interacting with other people. So living in society is not something that we should say yes or no. I want to live in society or I don't. It's from God, and it's instinctively for us. In order for us to get this thing right, the way Spiritism presents to us, it is necessary to first define society. What is society? Because if we don't get the right definition, and believe it or not, that's very confusing for us Spiritists. We're going to try to clear that off. Defining society properly will make us understand the statements from these spirits properly. So, trying to define society, if you go to a dictionary, to some sort of generic information about definitions, you will find mostly something like this. This is pretty much universally accepted. So, a society would be a reunion of people who live in organized groups. It starts to be interesting a little bit. When you say people, even us spiritists, when we use the word people, you are implying automatically in what we spiritists call an incarnated spirit. Incarnated spirit. People means there's an end for a material life. By the scientific standards, death. So when you say people, there's a last day. Let's just put it this way. So these people, while living a material life, will live in organized groups. That's fine. However, for us spiritists, that's a very short definition. It's a fragmented definition because Spiritism does not study people. Spiritism studies the evolution of the intelligent principle, which goes on way beyond the physical death. So, people for us, Spiritists, is a very restrictive word. We Spiritists do not understand and do not see a society as a reunion of people. So, us Spiritists, we need to think about this definition. For those who use the standard definition that we gave, here are some examples of societies: a nation, a city, a company, a club, a spiritist center, a family, which is the smallest society. All of those things are society. Of course, more societies that have more members are more complex. Of course, a nation, it's a much more complex society than a family or a spiritist center. And the challenges rise from exactly that, by having more people as members of that society. However, this is not enough for us because we go beyond death. So the word people is restrictive for spiritists. So we are going to redefine society using the spiritist view or standards. So I could say that a society is a collection of relations among immortal spirits. Immortal is in parentheses because just to remind us that we are immortal, although it's not necessary because spirits are immortal by definition. So, but I left the word in there just in case. So, reading again: collection of relations among immortal spirits. So you see now that is a completely different range of possibilities because it includes discarnate spirits, which the first definition, using the word people, does not. So it gives us a different dimension altogether. So when you go through that definition, it entitles on a completely different study and understanding and meaning. And this relation among spirits was something that Jesus taught a lot through his time with us here on earth. He will tell us how to treat other spirits, how to live with them, how to, interact with them, and they will in relation to that, he will talk about enemies. He will talk about our neighbors, that we should love our neighbors, and so and so. So he brought a lot of details on this thing. So if we want to go to the next level, so we are on the second layer per se of defining society, we are going to go up to a third layer based on everything that Jesus taught us. So we are going to define society as a collection of neighbors. Love your neighbor, right? That's what it says. So every member of a society from the Spiritist point of view, every member of a society is a neighbor. And that includes discarnate spirits. So, for example, a society where we live here, for example, in this country, we are about 340 million people, but many more if we include the discarnate spirits. And the society is influenced also by discarnate spirits. That's why we had to redefine society and tailor it to a spiritist definition, or something that it is more towards spiritism. So it's a collection of neighbors. And our society, especially in the Western civilization, which where societies are more open, uh, we have this tremendous cloud above the society. It's like everything is wrong. We complain about everything. We complain about the neighbor. We complain about this next city. We complain about the people running the city, running the country. We complain about everything. So there's always this dark clouds surrounding the entire society, not only each person, but is collectively. And why is that? Because we individually, each one of us, bring things like afflictions, complaints, anguish, suffering. I put four in there. There are many more, of course. We bring these things. And as long as we sustain these things, the cloud is going to be up on our heads. And we sustain these things. And why do we sustain this? Why do we have to live through all these things almost every day? Why? And Spiritism explains to us, because we are living in a planet or an orb whose purpose is exactly that. It's a orb, it's a planet of trials and expiations, which we speak so many times in Spiritist centers. We hear this every week almost. Trials are things that we have to be proved on, and expiations are to offset wrongdoings of the past. Okay, that's a worldly definition. Now, what exactly does that entitle? Defining is one thing, but understanding globally what it really means is different. So let's take a look at what exactly we mean by trials and expiations. Not us, but Kardec and the spirits. Being part or belonging to a world of trials and expiations, it means that we have reached an evolutionary level that is high enough that we make it possible to offset the mistakes of the past. When we were way, way, way in the past, before reaching a world of trials and expiations, living in primitive worlds, we were so less advanced, so in the beginning of human lives, that we wouldn't even understand why we have to offset mistakes of the past. It's almost like the animal level. If you tell a lion you can't do this to the gazelle, why not? He's not the animal at that point is not able to understand. In the first human incarnations, we have the same difficulties. So coming out of primitive worlds makes us already puts us on already a level where it is possible now to start thinking about offsetting mistakes of the past. That's what it means to be on trials and expiations. I'm so much better than before that I'm able to start thinking about this. Although we are way far from perfection, but we are so much better than before that we acquire that understanding. Also, we because of that, then we are going to be exposed to situations and circumstances that will provide us for the opportunity to for reparation of everything that we did wrong, so we can redo our choices, but more morally conscious this time. So it's a two-step here. First, we are already now in a position to offset the mistakes of the past. It's already something that we can understand, and we are going to be presented and exposed to situations that will allow us to practice that. Nobody's saying that it's easy, but that's the opportunity to using those circumstances and situations as stepping stones to go higher on the evolutionary scale. Now, going through all of this, going through the understanding that the mistakes will have to be offset and being exposed to situations to do so, it's not easy. So that's why we hear in the Gospel according to Spiritism, they say there's going to be weeping and gnashing of teeth because it's not fun. It's not easy, but it is necessary. So, weeping and gnashing of teeth, those are the stepping stones. Those are the things that are going to bring us up one level, at least one level. And then, of course, we're going to go higher and higher and higher as we go along. But this is the first thing that we need to understand what the concept of being and belonging to a world of trials and expiations. Also, a world of trials and expiations, such as Earth, is a hospital. Allan Kardec makes it very clear with the concourse of these spirits, it's a hospital. Well, hospital, let's think about a hospital as we know in a city, for example. If you take a city, any city, the bigger the city, the more hospitals you're going to have to serve the population. But there are different types of hospitals. For example, hospitals for trauma, hospitals for infectious diseases, hospital for cancer treatment. There are several different hospitals because there are several different types of diseases. It is exactly the same thing here. The hospital, planet Earth, treats one particular type of disease, and it's a disease called affliction. We are spirits afflicted because we are going through weeping and gnashing of teeth. We are going through that. And that puts us in an affliction mode, suffering mode. So we are the afflicted. Spirits suffering from affliction are going to be treated in worlds like the earth. It's not the only one, it's one of them. So the earth will shelter spirits in affliction, just like us, except for those who are here on a mission. That's a different story. So they are not being treated for anything. They are volunteering for a great mission. So you see, all of this thing going through trials and expiations and undergoing all these things, nobody said it's easy, but it's necessary. It is necessary. One day we are going to reach the next level up from trials and expiations, which is going to be regenerative worlds. So far, let's follow along. Let's keep going on trials and expiations and do our part. Coming back to those initial three answers, I'm going to select from question 767 something that we should investigate a little bit better in more details. I'm going to extract a couple of words here: cooperate and societal living. And these things are on the same phrase. They are related. So for us to live a society, living in society, we should cooperate. If we do, that's a different story. We should cooperate. So one thing leads to the other. Cooperation leads to a more interesting, to say the least, societal living, and societal living requires cooperation. Otherwise, it's going to be a war all the time. We're going to be in conflict with one another all the time if we don't cooperate. And that happens in a lot of different places. It depends on, like I said in the beginning, the size of the society. Some cities are very difficult, some are not. Some countries are very difficult in terms of societal living. Some are not, and it goes on like this. Now, what do I bring to the society that I'm part of. When I say me or I, it's each one of us. What do we bring to this society that we are part of? From the spiritist point of view, what is my contribution? What is my cooperation for life in society? Well, so I bring certain things. First of all, I bring my fluidic atmosphere, also called psychosphere. So I have my personal psychosphere. You listening to me up there, you have yours. The guy sitting next to you has theirs. The guy in next city has another one. Collectively, we form this psychosphere. So we, each one of us, contribute with the psychosphere. If we have a negative psychosphere, so not very good, it's going to impact negatively the society. If we have a very positive psychosphere, we think about fraternity all the time, charity all the time, we are going to impact the society positively. So that's one thing, not the only. It's one thing that as a member of a society, I bring with me. But I bring more things. I bring my vices and afflictions. We all have vices. No wonder why we are living in a place for trials and expiations. So our vices and afflictions, they don't stay in the spirit world when I incarnate and become part of a society. No, they come with us. They are us. We are here to work on them. So they need to be with us right here. So I bring my afflictions, my concerns, my complaints, my vices, I bring all of that. On the other hand, I bring my virtues too and my abilities. Some people have more vices than virtues, some people have more virtues than vices, and some are in between. We are all in a different stage in the evolutionary scale. So I bring my virtues and my abilities that that will uh, be part of a society now. That's part of my contribution to society. There's more. When I incarnate, I bring at least with me, at least, before we go on, just to rephrase, this is Spiritism. We are talking about society whose members are spirits, not people, spirits. So they could be incarnate or discarnate. So I bring with me good spirits, my mentors, my spiritual guides. So do you. So, and I bring also my not so friendly spirits that are, with me in a way because of something gone wrong in the past. So, hostile spirits, they accompany me here. Otherwise, if I don't have any of them, I wouldn't be in trials and expiations, except for a mission. So, think about this. The smallest society we can use as a reference, a family. And we are going to use the family of reference in most of these studies. So 4 people, mother, father, 2 kids. That's the family of reference, the average family of reference. Okay, so the father incarnates, he brings, let's say, one spirit guide. One spirit guide. Also, he brings hostile spirits. Let's just make it simple and let's say that this father brings 10 hostile spirits. Let's be not so bad. So now we have the father plus 11 spirits. So the father now became 12 spirits. The mother, same thing. The 2 kids, same thing. So now the family, instead of 4, is made up of 48 spirits. 4 people, 48 spirits. So when I relate to the other 3 people in the family, I'm relating to other 43 spirits. And that's why at times we don't get the concept. We don't grasp it. It's not only us 4. It's not those only who I see with my eyes. So a family of 4 becomes actually a group of 48 spirits. In the United States, we have 340 million people. You do the math. Is it complicated? Yeah, because the society is a lot composed of a lot more members than I initially thought. More members makes it more challenging, makes it more difficult, very difficult. So we need to live with this. We need to learn how to live with this thing. And then we, in trying to understand these spirits, and including the discarnates and how they relate to each other, we're going to bring up something that I think we spoke earlier this year about this, the spirit scale. Spirit scale is something that helped us, created by Allan Kardec with the concourse of these spirits, that help us understand where we are and how we relate to others. So what we have here is the spirit scale showing 9 different levels, going from the bottom, impure, which is the less advanced spirits, first human incarnations, all the way up to the pure spirits, which are spirits that have reached perfection. They no longer need to incarnate unless, as I said, for a mission. I put colors here because the colors mean something. In the 4 bottom levels, these are also called the third order imperfect spirits. The name is not very good, right? Imperfect. The shades of green are the second order or good spirits. And on top, we have only one order, first order, for pure spirits. What is the difference? The red spirits, third order, there's a predominance of evil over good. Evil predominates. That's us. We are third order spirits. Second order spirits, the green guys, evil does not dominate. Good dominates over evil. And in the first order, there is no evil at all. These are perfect spirits. So there's a tremendous difference from the red ones to the green ones. Now, if you think about the worlds where these spirits can be housed in, worlds are also divided in terms of, progressiveness. So we have 5 categories of worlds, from the bottom to the top: primitive, trials and expiations. One of them is Earth, us here. Are regenerative, happy, and heavenly worlds. Primitive worlds are mostly inhabited by impure spirits, maybe a little bit in the bottom of the frivolous block. So primitive worlds that we've been in some time ago, they are for impure spirits. Worlds of trials and expiations, us, they house spirits in the rest of the shades of red scale, and a little bit coming into the good spirits, a little bit. The great majority of spirits on earth are third order spirits. Occasionally, here and there, a benevolent or a green spirit shows up. And then we have, in Brazil, we had Chico Xavier, we had Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Divaldo Franco, also in Brazil. These are rare, but they do happen. So Earth mostly houses third order spirits, us. Regenerative worlds house mostly green spirits. Happy worlds, high order spirits, and heavenly spirits that have become pure. So when you look at this, we are, less than half, because being in the middle of the scale, we would be maybe upper neutral, lower benevolent, living in a regenerative world. We are not there yet. So there's work to be done. There's work to be done here. So when you look at this scale, the spirit scale, pure spirits, all the way on the top, that's our destination. And it's a known destination, by the way. We're not going somewhere we don't know. No, we know we are going to be pure spirits one day. It might take longer or not so long, depends on us. It's free will, but that's our destination, period. For now, we're not there. Our spiritual habitat is planet Earth, right here. That's where we are. In considering, once again, that the Earth is a world of trials and expiations, housing mostly third order imperfect spirits, what do we expect to encounter in this planet? What kind of neighbors am I going to have? What kind of people I'm going to have to interact with? What kind of spirits I'm going to have to deal with? Again, mostly third order spirits. And we complain. Let's say you are like frivolous and you're complaining about some upper impure, maybe lower frivolous. But we are all in the same habitat. So that's interesting because, for example, I mentioned some of the good spirits, Gandhi and Divaldo and Chico. So you look at the history of humanity at the same time on the planet, at the same time, you would see, for example, Chico Xavier in Brazil and Hitler in Germany at the same time. It becomes complicated. You would see, for example, Mother Teresa, and at the same time, some bad spirit out somewhere. You would see Divaldo Franco in Brazil at the same time that Osama bin Laden. And, you know, it's a mix. It makes it difficult. It makes it very challenging because we have to deal with them. So, how many are we now living on this planet Earth? We are about 25 billion. We're talking about spirits, not people. 8 billion people incarnate in a physical life, but 25 billion spirits that sustain the psychosphere of this planet. So we are 25 billion, and mostly third order spirits. What would I expect to encounter in a planet like this? Exactly that. It's like you go to a hospital and you go to the hospital and you come back and you say, you start complaining. And I ask you, why are you complaining? Oh, I went to the hospital. All I can see is sick people. Well, that's what the hospital is for. What did you expect to encounter in the hospital? It's the same thing. So we complain, but we are one of them. So what we want is not living in society. What we want is fragment, drift away from the society and leave our ego, which makes it more difficult because we grow faster by living in society, interacting with other people. Now, when we look at this, now we start to get a little more interesting. So I'm going to leave the spirit scale here so we can follow along. Let's say, for example, that a certain society, think of any society that you can think of. Let's say that the leadership comes from the frivolous group. So somebody from a frivolous spirit rises up to power, and now this spirit, this incarnate spirit, is the leader of a society. Okay, so in this society, so again, the leadership is frivolous. Let's just put it this way. In this society, you have spirits from other orders. You have maybe impures, maybe, but you have pseudo-learned. You have neutral. You might have a wise spirit. You might even have a high order spirit living in that society under the leadership of a frivolous. That complicates things a lot because the level of morality of the society is gonna run around or close to the level of morality of the leadership. That leadership, a frivolous incarnate spirit, cannot understand fraternity like, for example, Mother Teresa did. It's not possible at that level that you fully understand Mother Teresa. So the level of morality of the society is restricted, or I would say shrunk, to the level of morality of its leadership, which could be one person or a small group of people, but still, that moral is going to be is going to play a role, tremendous role, in the collective level of morality of that society. What is in this level frivolous? What is the moral level? Is it charity all the time? Is it fraternity all the time? Or it's more like corruption, more like, killing people? So you see, the level of morality is going to be a level of morality of the leadership is going to have a tremendous impact on how the society lives and behaves. That's the first thing we need to think about. We're just bringing ideas to get to a conclusion. Another thing we got to consider, when this leadership in the society is in public position, because the society that we are speaking so far could be anything. It doesn't have to be a city, a country. It could be a small group. Now, when we go up higher to leadership in public positions, that becomes even more complicated. Because now, if that public position is an important position or a controlling position in, let's just say, a city or a county or a province or a country, that's a lot more people than we can imagine before in a small society. It's much more difficult to control. And for those being controlled or under that leadership, it's a lot more difficult for some of the members to understand. Which members are going to have a hard time understanding? Those whose level of morality is above the leadership. It's above the leadership. Then, because of that level of morality, those above the leader, in terms of spirit scale, they tend to think that society is unfair and not just. Things are not going well. The system of justice is questionable. It's not fair. Some people are being favorable. That happens a lot in societies like this. Societies like this tend to be a dictatorship. They tend to be a dictatorship where the leader simply thinks he is dealing with people below his morality level, when that is not true. Another thing to consider is what I call the flattening of the intelligent principle. Look, think about this. The leader is this frivolous now. Now we have, let's say, some wise people. Wise is on the green towards the top. We have wise people living in this society, wise spirits, better saying, wise spirits incarnated in that society. And they're living under the leadership of this frivolous. It would be thinkable to believe that the wise spirit would offer their abilities, which are better than the level where the leadership is. So they could offer their abilities to the leadership to improve the society. That's not going to happen, because at this level, we took an example, taking leadership from frivolous, which is way down. So in a case like this, having intelligent principles more intelligent, not more intelligent, they don't see like more intelligent, having different intelligent principles, saying something different is a threat. They're threatening my power. I'm the leader here. They want to offer a solution. No, they don't want to offer anything. They want to take my spot. That's what they think. So what eventually they do, they eliminate. And we see this all over the world, across times in humanity. So what happens is the spirits that could contribute for the society to be better, to advance morally and intellectually, their intelligent principle is flattened to the level that the leadership is. It's like, for example, you go to a wise, the leader goes to a wise spirit and say, listen, you're part of a society. You're no good to me. So you're a problem because you have to start killing people, because that's common. You have to start being corrupt. You have to start stealing money, and you don't do anything like this. What's wrong with you? We are exaggerating a little bit, but we're passing a concept. That's exactly what happens. So they want to take the entire scale and flatten to their level. But you can't flatten this, the intelligent principle. A wise spirit is not going to go back to be a killer, period. Good old days, good old past he had that he was able to do this. Never, ever again is going to do that. So these higher order spirits living under the leadership of lower order spirits, it's a problem because the lower order spirits do not understand what they could do for the society. They simply make it impossible for these people to contribute to the society as they could, being a more advanced spirit. And lastly, here that I want to bring in is the moral laws. If they're not well understood, and it isn't at the frivolous level, it isn't. So if the moral laws are not understood and not well established, the society is going to implode. It's a matter of time. Society imploding means one of the two things. Either it gets so disorganized that you go into more like a, in modern day terms, a civil war per se, or that leadership has to be replaced. Now, think about this. If you're going to replace the leadership, it is of no use replacing the leadership of a frivolous spirit with another frivolous spirit. That's not going to be, I mean, it does happen in most places. However, that doesn't do the society any good because the society is not improving morally. So what happens, what we have, the say the what we can do is make use of the only instruments that we have when it is allowed, which is the vote, for example. We could vote in two different ways. This is not politics. This is spiritism. This is the study of the intelligent principle, please. There are two ways that we can vote. I can vote as a person. What does it mean? It means my life is going to end one day. So let's just say a person thinks they're going to live, let's just say 80 years, and they are 60, for example, and they're going to vote. If you vote as a person, in your mind, in your head, that voter, that citizen, thinks they have still another 20 years of life. So if there's a particular way to vote for somebody who offers you to be a millionaire in less than 20 years, you're probably going to go for it. Now, being a millionaire might be interesting for you, depends on you, But how are you going to get all the money? The money is going to be taken from someplace else. So if the money is coming from things that could be used for development of the society, like education, healthcare, that would be a disaster. But still, it's free will. So you can vote as a person, or you can vote as an immortal spirit. And the outcome could be different. When you vote as an immortal spirit, you're looking at something, a wide view of things. And in 3 or 4 generations, you're going to be back here. So what do you want to leave for yourself? So the way we can use, with no violence whatsoever, voting is not violence. So, but in order to do this thing right, we have to learn more about ourselves. We have to have better knowledge. We have to understand kind of these things that we are discussing here. It's voting could be very hard, very difficult, because you look at the names on the list and you go like, oh, I don't know what to do here. Oh my God, I like this because of that, but the other is better because of this. It's not easy. It could be very complicated. So we have to study. We have to understand what that vote, which brings responsibility with it, what is it going to entitle in 5 years, in 2 generations? Or what is it going to do, good or bad? All of these things are things that we should consider. So when the society has a leadership, a member who is a leader, or a group of people who are low in morality, if we don't, or if the society doesn't change that, it will explode. As we have seen in history, thousands of times, societies and groups, they go up, beautiful, they reach the top, and they go down like in very few years. So if we look today, anywhere, any place, any system, any country, if you look at the systems of a country, and I'm just putting 6 of them here: politics, economy, technology, ecology, healthcare, and education. How did these things start? Where did it come from? So let's pick one here, because it's the same concept for any one of them. So let's just pick politics. How does it start? The idea of politics, having a group of people controlling the society, and so on and so on and so on. How does it start? It starts way before old Greece, where in the area that today is the country, Greece, you had tribes, separate tribes living. 30 people here, another 50 there, another 10 there. And these tribes are displacing themselves at times because of water. They're nomads. They're looking for, food and water. So they start finding that there are more. So a small group of 30 meets another group of 50, then 10, then 20. So there's a point where the amount of people, the number of people is too big. So they are forming a society, but there are too many members. So if we don't do anything, we are going to have a problem, because that small society in the beginning is going to have trouble. We have to organize this society so the society evolves. There are not people fighting all the time. How do we do this? Well, let's pick some of the members of that society. See, they don't come from outside. Let's pick some of the members of that society and put them in charge of, doing this, helping the society to, first of all, survive, so people don't destroy each other, and advance morally, intellectually, and so on and so on. So if you're going to pick members of a society, are you going to pick the ones in the bottom of the scale or higher up? You're going to pick the higher up. Those are the more intelligent ones, the more moral ones. Those are the ones in charge that will bring moral to the society, and all the systems will raised on top of that. And so we have economy, technology, ecology, and so on. So then we go along, society evolves, time goes by, leadership changes, in all societies, of course, either because they're limited to the time they can be a leader, or they simply die, they have to be replaced, and so on and so on. So we look back at one point and say, my God, it's difficult now. We are in a complicated society full of problems. Let's look at our systems. When you look at the systems today and you see what is sustaining each one of these systems, and you look and you say, I, I, I can't really tell. It's corrupt. It's, rusty. Yeah, because that's not there anymore, 100%. Moral is disappearing, or was disappearing in certain societies. So morality is fading away. So there's going to be a point where you're going to look at this, take a peek at it, and say, I don't know what they're based on. And that's when everything dismantles, because you lost whatever was sustaining that. And it makes it very complicated. So, in order to kind of wrap up everything we said, most of the trouble that we have in our societies happen because of the moral level of leaderships. Leaderships with, first of all, we are third order spirits. Leadership controls the society by defining the values of that society, defining the laws of that society. However, who writes the laws of a society? Answer: third order imperfect spirits. Are these laws going to be perfect, or they're going to side with some groups, side with another group? You see, that's why it's so difficult. And we, as spiritists, we have to understand this, and we can teach, as possible, other people that we need to look at societies from the spiritist point of view, in which we have spirits, immortal spirits, being part of it. There are spiritual influences influencing the leaders, and so on and so on and so on. So we can do better choices by learning more, by acquiring more knowledge, and we can pass that along to others, our neighbors on the same society, that can then all of us together help the society be better and progress a little bit. Thanks so much. I'll be here for questions, comments, answers, suggestions. We'll be here. Thank you.
Amazing explanation that you brought to us, and it's amazing how you also broke it down into different ways for us to analyze the idea of society, right? Sometimes we just think it's simply a group of people, but it's way more than that. And adding this the spiritual component of it as well, right? That's so I would say enlightening, and from your part to break it down that way. I'll open up for questions, comments that you may have, and I'm checking with Daniel here if there's anything online. I would like to ask a question.
Yeah.
And it has to do with, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, when you were defining, I think it's the second part of the presentation, second slide of your presentation there. You don't have to bring it back, but just for you to make reference, that the reunion of people who live in organized group.
Mm-hmm.
In my question, or more of a comment too, the organization, and I think that would be, since we're in different levels, right, and we find ourselves in, and I say find ourselves, including myself, of being different from one another. the level of organization that we have is very different, right, from one another. It's easy to see this when we are comparing towns, groups of people, countries, right? The level of organization here in the US, for example, is completely different from the level of organization of other countries. And that has to do more with the people. Would it be prudent to say that the organization level is one of the elements that ought to change as well, or um, should we arrange ourselves in different ways?
Okay. Uh, a society, okay? When we say organized groups, there are three main elements. There are three main elements to consider in an organized society, in organized groups. The organization includes the culture of that society. Culture includes moral values, traditions, language, things like this. That's one thing. From that, the moral value is defined from the culture of a society. What we extract from there is the moral values of that society. The second thing is the infrastructure of the society, which is like the organization chart, if you will, of a society. How things work, social classes, what kind of work this society is going to do. For example, in a country that is, or in a place, not necessarily a country, where it snows, let's say, 80% of the time, is going to be different than from a tropical place, of course. So the infrastructure, the type of work, the social classes, it's going to be different. That's part of the infrastructure. And the third thing is the institutions. And from there, what we extract is the laws of that society from the infrastructure, from the institutions. So these three things are what we're going to define the society, regardless of what it is, the size of the country. It's always these three things. So the values will come from the culture of the society. And the problem is imagine this forms a triangle, right? The culture, the infrastructure, and the institutions. If you touch any of them, the whole society changes. So if you change the moral values of a society, everything in that society changes. And that's very challenging because from time to time, what we see throughout history is you have a certain leadership. The next leadership wants to change the moral values of the society. So that shakes everything up. It goes into an overshoot process, where the society goes like this. It's very complicated, but it does happen as you go along, as you replace leadership for whatever reason. Leadership had died or it was time to go or whatever it is, doesn't matter. So these three things is what defines a society. And anyone that you touch, it's going to create, I'm not going to say chaos in the society, but it's going to make things rough a little bit until the society adjusts again. That's the overshoot of the process. I can hear you.
Daniel is actually bringing a comment from Paula. Paula Schmidt. Hey, Paula. She says, great talk, very clear explanations. In our current society, church participation is declining. Who then are the morality teachers, especially when the culture appears confused?
Okay, church not necessarily define morality. Church is one type of religiosity. You have several different types. What we need to do, the moral of reference is what Jesus brought, not reinterpreted by man, not made into social law. What we need to do is go back and understand exactly what the message was without any contamination. Though what he brought to us is the moral of reference, and that never declines because it's timeless. You see, if you go back to the Ten Commandments, which is the first glimpse of moral laws, you're going to see there, you should not kill. That never declines. Never declines. You still can't. You couldn't 4,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, you still can't. So what changes is the moral value of the society around that changes. So in certain societies, killing is not necessarily a problem. For example, think about this. For example, let me be a little bit more clear. So don't kill. That's 10 commandments right there. Don't kill. With that, Moses had to append, with the Ten Commandments, he had to append 613 disciplinary laws to sustain those 10 values. Otherwise, people wouldn't go for them. So he created 613, which are now called Mosaic Law. Those are disciplinary laws, or in a more modern word, social laws. So we have a moral value, which is don't kill. Then we have a social law, which is don't kill. If you kill, you go to jail, for example. Now, the problem is this. Let's say that I am a very, very, very powerful man, influential in my society. I can do anything I want, basically. And let's say that I killed a person. So by the standards of the society, I should go to jail. So because of my influence over the society or the leadership of that society, I'm going to propose a change to the social law. So now you have right here, don't kill. If you kill, you're going to prison, jail. And then you go to don't kill. If you kill, you're going to jail. But if it's your first crime, we're okay with that. You see, so now, instead of the law, the social law, following the moral law, no, the social law now follows the attitude. So the attitude changes, not the moral law. And if the religious segments follow the social law along, they will deviate from what they're supposed to be doing. And how many deviations do we have in history? If we didn't have any, explain the Crusades to me, where a pope tells 60,000 Christians to go to Jerusalem, assassinate the Islamic population. That's nowhere in any gospel of any language, any translation. So you see, not necessarily the church has a participation per se, as we would like to. Even if you consider the church to be clean of immoralities, it's not because the members of the church can contaminate the church. But even if it was, it would be way higher than some of the leaderships in some places. And they would be challenged by that leadership. In certain places, churches have no say, no participation, almost don't exist, because they are a challenge for a low morality level of leadership.
Thank you, Luis. Anyone else would like to make a comment, question? Do we have anyone else online, Daniel? Okay. And Daniel will ask a question.
Hey, Luis, thank you so much. Very good presentation. And it's a topic that at the end of your presentation, I was kind of feel like a little bit depressed because, how difficult it is to live in this planet, right? But in a good way. So it's a good reflection that you brought to us. But what I want to bring to you is just a temporal analysis about our society. Since, the Greeks, the first society, until nowadays. And this is personal, like me looking the history, and I don't know if you agree, and I know that this talk is about the spiritist view of a society, but we can see a evolution, even morally speaking. Don't you agree? Because although we have those attitude that we have added in the moral laws to accommodate, our egos, as we are driven by, right? So we see that we have evolved. Don't you agree on that?
Yes. One of the things that we hear all the time is it's getting worse. Well, you gotta put the parameters in place. You gotta look from the right perspective. Is it worse because we have global news? Something happens in the middle of an iceberg somewhere, and we got the news in seconds here, and we didn't have that ability before. And that's mostly what it is. We have technology now that globalized the news. So anything happening anywhere in the world, the whole world knows at the same time. So it was very, very easy and very cost effective to produce news, to make things available for the public, which we didn't have before. So we have the impression things are worse. No, it's just because we have more information. If we're looking only at the bad information, yeah, it's going to seem worse, but it's not. I agree with you.
So, just to conclude, I don't think we have any other question from the web. What would you, with your study, Luis, what would you suggest? Or I'm not putting you in your spot I'm not trying to put you in a spot as a oracle that we're asking for, envision the future for us. But what to expect in the future? I mean, I know we have difficulties. As you brought and as we spoke here, bringing some elements, as you mentioned, about the church. But we also have seen the improvements, right? As you just mentioned as well. With that at hand, those parts of the equation, what do we see for the future?
I think things. First of all, we can never, especially us spiritists, we can never stop learning. We can never stop acquiring knowledge. You see, we are possibly in a better position than other belief systems in terms of looking at the future. Because if you think about it, Spiritism is this portal right here where you have two sides. This is the side of incarnate people. That's us here. And this is the side of discarnate people. They are trying to teach us on how to look at life, not from the point that we are, but from the other side. They're telling us, you're looking as a people, looking as a spirit. All of these things, they're trying to take us over by the hand to the other side of the portal to look at life. And I think that's what can change personally for each one of us. Start looking at things differently from the immoral spirit perspective. We can see society from a different angle. We can perceive society at a different angle. We can understand why some people are, choosing to stay at the frivolous level. All of these things they become a little bit more clear for us if we look from the other side. So we can never stop learning. We can never stop studying. Now, for the current situation, for those who are already in power anywhere in the world, because they are already in power, the thing that we can do is pray. Collective prayer. So these people can do their part on creation properly. They are supported by good spirits. What we can do with collective prayer is improve the psychosphere of that society, so the leaders will be in a better position with the guidance of spiritual guides and good spirits to take the society ahead to the next level, not to stay on lower levels. So prayer, especially collective prayers, help. And I think those are the two things that we can do. And of course, leadership, I said that is going to be replaced at one point, and then it's time for to make use of our responsibilities to make better choices.
Luis, again, this is a great reminder for ourselves, all of us who live in society. As you reminded us at the beginning, how the Spirit tells us that we look to live in society. We need one another, right? And I think that is brings us the reminder that we're all equal in many ways, but we still need one another because we have not developed everything. And even if we did, we would be morally inclined to help those who are not well developed yet. And that, I think, is a great reminder that we stay with in this, with this talk, with this reminder about living in society and helping one another, right? I would like to ask you to say the final prayer for us and exercise what you just reminded us as well, which is to pray for ourselves and pray for one another, pray for leadership, our leadership as well, and all of those who are in power. Each one of us, we are in a position as well of leadership, one way or the other, especially before ourselves, right?
Sure. Let's think of our Master, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus, for all the opportunities that we have in this life to come out as better people, to help our neighbors, to help other people be better as well. We pray that the leaders of the current societies across the globe can have the support needed by their members, also sustained by the higher spirits, that they can do their part on creation properly and be helped in practicing morality, in improving the society they lead, and giving everybody, all the members, the opportunity to be better people. Thank you, Jesus, for those who are in prison, most of them in a revolt state, not even understanding why they're in such a condition, that they can receive the light and the intuition to start reflecting upon their mistakes and start gearing towards a different direction. Also for those in hospital beds, in terminal conditions, that they can, again, most of them, several of them in revolt state, they can understand why they're going through what they're going, that they have the time to digest their situation, be grateful for the life they had, and that they could be going out of this life without any negative sentiments. Thank you, Jesus, once again for the opportunity for this study, and please bless all of us. So be it.